comeback for Vasilev, and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and I don't know about you guys, but it still does feel weird that the Philadelphia Union's 2025 season's come to an end, and here we are getting ready to talk about 2026 roster decisions. And yeah, I don't know. Did the Union losing to New York City save the Union from getting embarrassed by Inter Miami like New York City did last night and like FC Cincinnati did the previous week? The Union have put up a better fight against Inter Miami than FC Cincinnati and New York City? I guess we'll never know, but the one thing that we do know is a guarantee that Lionel Messi and Thomas Mueller in Vancouver Whitecaps are meeting yet again in another final. And I don't know if this is the matchup that MLS really would have won it. I think they would have preferred to have LAFC play Inter Miami, but to see Thomas Mueller be here, I think 3-4 months, and he's going to a final with Vancouver, not too shabby, right, Jose?
Not too shabby at all. Thanks for having me, Todd. What a interesting game that was last night. Or I guess both of the games, which I guess we'll talk lightly on. But that Inter Miami game, you got to give me some credit, and this is where maybe I pat my back for the first and only time this entire show. A gigantic W for me in rage baiting people on the Matt Freese thing. Absolutely caught all of the NYCFC fans with the tweet, noticing that those two very early goals, 20 through 24 minutes, I think it was, maybe 25. Matt Freese let a shot, albeit very powerful, in his near post, by him at the near post, realistically. And then a header from about 14 yards out, which is kind of unbelievable for someone of his stature and level. But it absolutely was top of the class rage bait, because I haven't checked. I muted it, but as of right now, I think it's probably sitting at like 400 likes and a lot of comments of NYCFC fans just wanting to kill me. And mind you, the same hyenas that were in the press room cheering with members of the team pretending to be press. Just saying. So really interesting to see the dichotomy of how we operate and as press members in Philadelphia versus other groups of press members.
Yeah, absolutely. You had mentioned the amount of likes on that Matt Freese post and everything, and I'm not going to play the clip and everything, and I kind of feel bad showing this, but yeah, this tweet that I posted, I don't know if you listened to this clip, Jose. Hopefully it doesn't play the audio. But it was like Lewis Morgan explaining Gam and Tam to Ben Foster, and I just kept getting notification on my phone, and then I was like, you know what? This must be what Jose feels like every time that he just makes a tweet. I was like, I'm turning my phone off. Like, I'm just getting way too many notifications. 1,300 likes, 93 retweets, 878 bookmarks, over 288,000 people view this. I'm like, this must be what it feels like to be Jose Nunez. And I was like, yeah, I'm turning off my phone. So I hope that never happens again. I mean, it is cool, I guess, in the moment, but I was like, dude, I just can't deal with my phone buzzing. I don't know how you do it, Jose, especially whenever you report news. I mean, I'm sure it's just nonstop. And then you get DMs too. So luckily for me, I didn't get any DMs, but yeah, my phone was getting overtime last night.
Yeah, that was hysterical, because I can imagine that the majority of that had to come from overseas. I wish maybe there's it had to be, because I mean the American mind that follows MLS can comprehend, but I can imagine that the European mind sort of. There's this funny GIF that I ran into, and I don't watch a lot of SpongeBob, but it was Squidward opens up his brain, brings out his brain, and grabs the eraser end of a pencil and removes all ridges from his brain, making it smooth, and puts it back on. I bet you that's exactly what Europeans felt like, and really anybody outside of the US felt like, trying to understand GAM, TAM, and all this nonsense that MLS deals with. So no, congrats to you on the banger. I did see that.
It was a good episode, by the way. I don't know if you listened to the whole thing.
I do not, man. I lived through a weekend, however long I was in Ireland and that part of Europe. That was enough. That was my fill for the year. I have such a hard time with that accent specifically, where I, with all due respect to any listeners of yours that are from that area of the world, I grow tired of that accent, and I get fatigued, honestly, genuinely fatigued trying to understand it. So I skip that podcast as a whole.
I'll leave a link in the show description for you guys, because I'll do Ben Foster a solid. I'm sure he'll do the same thing for our podcast. So just two podcasters looking out for each other. But it was really interesting. I mean, yeah, they explain Tam and Gam, but they talk about Kevin Sullivan, Julian Hall of New York Red Bulls a little bit, which is so crazy to me. Like, I was thinking this. Congrats to MLS and the Philadelphia Union for hitting it out of the ballpark with the marketing of Kevin Sullivan, because the first thing that Ben Foster says is, yeah, how does it work for Kevin Sullivan? Wasn't he 14 when he made his debut and his first start at 15, and now he's 16? Is he training with the team full time? And MLS did such a good job marketing. Oh, here's a 14-year-old signing a homegrown deal with the Philadelphia Union, coming on to make his debut. I mean, you remember that night at Subaru Park, Jose, with more cameras than there normally are. I felt like there was probably 20 extra cameras getting all touches, all angles of Kevin Sullivan. Oh, here comes Kevin warming up. Oh, Kevin's about to come onto the field. I mean, what a crazy night that was when Kevin makes his debut. And now you still have people talking about, oh, that 14-year-old kid that made his debut. Like, MLS got exactly what they wanted out of Kevin Sullivan. Even if he doesn't play much more for the Philadelphia Union, Kevin gets people talking about MLS. If people know MLS, the first thing they think about is either Kevin Sullivan or Lionel Messi. So, yeah, the Kevin Sullivan marketing machine is definitely doing its job.
Yeah, I haven't seen a cardboard cutout of his at Raising Cane's in Moynihan for some time now. Maybe they moved on. I also haven't seen his what was it, Aeropostale, whatever, however you say that brand, with his jeans. So it's been a little bit that I've seen that sort of firsthand marketing, but anytime you tag along Manchester City with his name, it certainly pops up. So yeah, absolutely banger of marketing for the Union with Kevin Sullivan.
But yeah, let's actually go ahead and talk about, we'll talk about it briefly, the two games last night. I did not watch Portland and San Diego and Vancouver. Did watch the Inter Miami and New York City game, and I don't think it's any surprise that New York City scored on a set piece, because Inter Miami's been god awful at defending set pieces this season. They had given up 15 coming into the match, 16 last night once New York City scores. But defensively, they looked in shambles. And if Matt Freese, and this is what your tweet said, Jose, seemed like Matt Freese saved the game of his life against Philadelphia. It seemed like that whole New York City team saved the game of their lives against Philadelphia. It seemed like that was their MLS Cup, defeating the Philadelphia Union at Subaru Park. And then the antics of Inter Miami maybe plays a factor into last night's game. Just a constant going up to the referee, complaining, so many yellow cards given, so many fouls blown. And I hate that. It felt like the game really didn't have a flow to it. There was too much start-stop, even though the game was 2-1 at half. But it didn't feel like a 2-1 game at halftime, in my opinion. And then Inter Miami just explodes in the second half of that game. But yeah, it was a strange game, in my opinion. I don't know if a 5-1 scoreline was justified. Matt Freese definitely didn't look great, that's for sure. New York City as a whole didn't look great, but can't take anything away from Allende, who's been on fire throughout these playoffs. I saw people complaining about Messi not having a great game, but it seemed like he was drawing the attention of 3-4 New York City players and really opening things up for the rest of his teammates. So yeah, Miami goes to a championship, goes to MLS Cup final, and will they finally win a trophy this season? And then on the flip side for Vancouver, I know I'm flipping. You know what's interesting about that whole thing, Jose, is Vancouver has made it to the final in every single competition they played in this season. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is pretty damn impressive. Now, Todd, now remind me, what was the quote from Bradley Cornell? Maybe you have it off the top of your head, but where he talks about momentum shifts, and then there's something like he spoke about how like momentum shifts can I forget the exact quote, but the reason I bring it up is because last night I had to look. Julian Fernandez subs in at the 60th minute, and I think shortly before, I think it was the 65th minute or so, he had a chance to tie it, or there was some sort of involvement in the 60th minute that they almost tied it to then open the floodgates. And I think that was one of those moments where should that NYCFC goal gone in and it been a 2-2 game, very different last 20 minutes in all phases of the game, defensively, offensively, and mentally as well. And of course, that doesn't go in. The goalkeeper, Rios, whatever, goes ahead and makes a good acrobatic save. And then they go down the field and score. So after that, it was kind of done. And I must admit, I turned it off when it was 4-1. I went in and sort of went on to make something quick. I think a quick snack, or I think I got up and took my NyQuil before sitting down for the San Diego game. So yeah, I listen to everybody who took the bait on that Matt Freese post. I was the first one. I was writing for the league when I gave him a ton of credit just 2 weeks ago, saying how his game against Philadelphia may as well have solidified his status as a starter for the USMNT for the World Cup. Come on, you can't take that bait that easily. Like, yeah, of course, like some shaky goals with that near post. I am a firm believer that if you're going to get beat, don't get beat at the near post. That's one sure side of the net that you can make sure you cover. And there was somebody on the comments that just sort of like, tell me you don't know ball without telling me you know ball. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm not a goalkeeper, but it's always been instructed to me that if a goalkeeper is going to save anything for you, it's got to be his near post. So for what it's worth. And then I don't know how you get beat from a 14-yard header. Honestly, it is. And Matt Freese is 6-something, right? Like he is pretty damn tall. So I don't know how that happened, but neither here nor there. It sort of feels like Messi is inevitable in this playoffs, right? Because I think he's on an incredible tear. I think it was Kalen Clark, which of course it was Kalen Clark, who had posted. That's her last name, right?
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, okay, Kalen Kyle. Kalen Clark is someone completely different. Caitlin Kyle had posted about the stat of, I think, Messi in every single playoff game going into this one had either assisted or scored a goal. So that continues, I believe. I think he assisted 1 or 2, maybe not. I can't remember. But even if he didn't score or assist this game, he still had an incredible game, and he draws so much attention that frees up the space for everybody else. So congratulations to Miami. They get to host it, which is really interesting. I know that's leading to some dissatisfied fans who suddenly are facing some incredible ticket prices. So best of luck to the OGs that were there before the Messi days, and that they're able to see their club hopefully lift I consider the Eastern Conference final a trophy, but not that big of a trophy. Hopefully they get to lift the big one that puts a star over their herons.
Be careful what you say about Messi, Jose. Apparently Argentina is tuning in, so no Messi slander on this podcast. The fine folks down in Argentina will stop tuning into the podcast. But yeah, Messi did have an assist last night, but I don't know. You had Alba sign a contract extension during the season, and then he announces a couple weeks ago, a month or two ago, that he's retiring actually at the end of the season. Busquets announced that he's retiring. Who knows what's going to go on with Suarez? And this whole interesting thing is, too, credit to Javier Mascherano. he figured out that this Inter Miami team plays much better with Suarez on the bench than Suarez starting. I mean, it is crazy the night and day difference that Suarez not being in the starting lineup makes. And I guess it should be no surprise when Suarez's legs, you could tell they're completely gone.
What's the guy on Instagram? The tendernism guy? That's what I imagine. That's what I imagine Luis Suarez's leg to be like. Sort of like you just hang a bone, you shake it, and all the meat falls off. Right at this point, the guy is just having a hard time. And listen, all credit due to Luis Suarez because he was an absolute monster in his heyday for sure. Those Liverpool years were unbelievable, just unbelievable soccer. If anything, should have won more accolades for what he did during that time.
It was a terrible Liverpool team, by far the best player.
That by far the best player, but also an incredible cheat code in FIFA at the time too. So, nothing else to add really from that game. Best of luck to Miami, I guess. Though I think I side with the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, me too. I would love to see Thomas Muller get another one over Messi in a final, which leads me to the Vancouver San Diego game. I did not watch that game. I don't know if you watched any of it, but once again, we see no Chucky Lozano in the starting 11 for San Diego. And he was asked, Mikey Varas was asked after the game, what's the future hold for Chucky? He said, I don't want to talk about it. He obviously makes a difference coming off the bench, but your star player, once again, not in the starting lineup for San Diego. I don't know. That raises a lot of questions, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that that's the piece of news that overshadows what should be celebrated as immediately. Anyways, I think in hindsight, we'll fast forward. God, the season starts in fewer than 90 days, so like we'll fast forward. Even 20 days from now and not even really care about it. I'm guessing, I think by today they were supposed to submit their roster decisions by today at 1:00, if I recall. So an announcement at some point, I'm sure, for what they're doing with options and players out of contract, though San Diego really doesn't have much in terms of players out of contract. What will be interesting is to see whether or not they pick up the purchase option on David Vasquez, which by my sources, I was told that it was basically a handshake that, they were going to pick it up as part of the loan, but maybe things have changed since I last checked in.
Yeah. And they today was their deadline to exercise that option on David Vasquez. So I try to look real quick. Nothing yet from San Diego on their website on roster decision. So tomorrow, maybe we'll see a post from them. So, and one thing I do want to correct, I saw a lot of people on social media, and we even had some people talking about this last episode, Jose, not live, but like comments back and everything I was reading. And people were under the assumption just because the union were eliminated that, okay, they had to come to these decisions real quick. That's not the case for the union. That's not the case for most clubs. They have these decisions decided well in advance. It's just they have the deadline. Okay, this is when you need to submit those decisions. It's not, okay, well, we're out of the playoffs now. Let's figure out what we're going to do for 2026. That's not how these clubs operate. They had an idea of what that was going to look like prior to them getting knocked out of the playoffs. So this isn't something that, okay, you have 24 hours to put together your decisions for next season. I did want to clear that up because I thought that was a little bit of a crazy take from some people I was seeing online, and then, like I said, in comments that we got.
I must admit, though, I have heard, and not as of recent, but I have heard of clubs in the past literally waiting till that morning to inform some players, the morning of roster decisions in the past. So, yeah, that is a deadline, but I think Philadelphia is a well-run enough team on all I hear anyways, that those decisions were made well in advance of anything to do with, and I think it leads to the line of questioning, anything to do with the Ernst Tanner investigation, allegations, etc. So, on San Diego, one last bit I'll add before we move on. Holy smokes, already 20 minutes. On San Diego, though, incredible season for an MLS team, and it must be stressed because I think Alex Calabrese, our friend from Chicago, mentioned it on social media. For a modern MLS expansion team, the best expansion season I think ever, and just clear as day that there's a through line and a path for this team to continue to improve. And it really, really does mirror what Philadelphia does in terms of taking youth and surrounding it with incredible talent that is maybe not as well known, right? I mean, I still remember being, I think I was at Moynihan train station when the expansion draft happened, and I'm looking at Tyler Heaps and Mike Ibarra sitting at that table with MLS TV hosts, etc., and just thinking, why the fuck are they picking these people? Like, this makes no sense. Like, these players, like, you saw who was available, and this is who you wanted. And they immediately thought, okay, this is a team that's gonna have the bug and just have a really, really bad first season, not setting up themselves for anything. And of course, absolutely wrong. I'll be the first one to admit it. But looking at Lucas Bombino and some of these other players, David Vasquez, if he's to stick around, don't forget that they still have a grip on, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, I apologize, but Anissa Saidi, who they got from the Union earlier in the year as well. So they have a pretty good through line here of youth players. And again, David Vasquez, we're waiting to see what happens with him. That could be more money in the coffers of Philadelphia officially. But I think that there's going to be another announcement here in the next week or two about the future of their very own academy. So pretty excited for people to find that out, people to see, and just excited for San Diego as a whole. They're doing some incredible stuff.
All right. Well, like we said, we're going to talk about the 2026 Philadelphia Union roster decisions. Before we get into those decisions, prior to the list that the Union had sent out, there was two news bit of topics that the Union had given us prior to those decisions being released. So let's go straight into the news. All right, so the first bit of news, I guess we can go ahead and talk about, Jose, is Philadelphia Union signing Indiana Vasilev to a contract extension, or a new contract, I should say, through 2028 with an option for 2029. And you and I were talking about, I think this was on Sunday or Saturday, we were talking about it. You had reported that Matt Real is on his way to Hartford, right, in USL. And you were like, yeah, he's only 26, 27 years old. I can't believe that. And I said, and you were like, you feel old knowing that. And I said, I feel old knowing that Indiana Vasilev's only 24 years old. I could have sworn that he was older than 24. So yeah, Philadelphia Union give Vasilev a new 3-year contract with an option for 2029. In 2025, Vasilev had a career high in goals with 5, tied his most assists with 4, appeared in 31 matches for the club, 21 starts, logging 1,971 minutes, the 8th most on the team. Vasilev also became one of 6 players for the Union this season in MLS to appear in 30 or more regular season matches. He was also named to 3 MLS Team of the Match days this season, which was second most to Ty Baribo and Kai Wagner, who had 4. But Vasilev, well-deserved contract extension. And I don't understand the fans on social media who have an issue with this, the fans on social media that are surprised by this, because Jose, I think this was always going to be the case. When the Union announced that they had traded for Indiana Vasilev on February 21st for $1.2 million in GAM, $400,000 in 2025, $600,000 in 2026, and then an additional $250,000. It's a significant amount of GAM invested into Indiana Vasilev, but the Union were never going to have him just for 2 seasons. They weren't going to just pick up his option for 2026 and that would be it. Absolutely not. When you looked at how often he played under Bradley Cornell in St. Louis, so I think this is a good decision for the Union. And like I said, I mean, my biggest surprise is that he's 24. Completely forgot.
Yeah, you could probably see that from miles away, honestly, when you think about the date of the trade for him. I think more than anything to me, and yes, deserved, good season, great season. I think he was also aided by the fact that Quinn Sullivan got hurt, just to be super clear, in a way, in terms of playing time. Very different players. You would almost argue different positions as a whole, but nonetheless, deserved. And I know we're going to go into it after the next bit of news that went ahead of the big piece of news, so I'll save it for that. But the fact that he accepted to a new contract is pretty telling of maybe where some other players are in terms of the future with Philadelphia. So we'll talk more about that soon.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Vasilev, I don't have too much more to add. Even when Quinn Sullivan was here, Vasilev in Indy were both in the starting lineup. It felt like they were two locks. The only thing that I think maybe would have been a little bit more difficult is how do you fit Milan Alaski into the lineup if Quinn doesn't get hurt? And Milan was always the right move for the Union to make. Don't take that as me saying, oh, the Union shouldn't have made this move. But with Quinn getting hurt, which nobody would have seen coming, it's a freak accident tearing his ACL. That move worked out even better for the Union, saying, okay, look, now we don't have to rush, go out and make a free agent signing, make a deal. We already have Milan Alaski. He'll fit right into the number 10 role next to Indiana Vasilev. Yeah, they still have Ben Bender, who didn't really feature. I thought maybe we would see him feature a little bit more. Cavan, I know, played a couple more minutes towards the end of the season as well. But yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about it too, what we think the Union need. And I don't want to get too ahead of that, but yeah, locking down a key piece in the lineup that can play multiple different positions, a player that really starts the press for this team, that knows exactly how Bradley Cornell wants to play. Bradley, you hear him talk about just how well he fits into the locker room, whether it be on the field and off the field. So yeah, this is a decision that I thought was a no-brainer. But then the next big piece of news, and this is what you were mentioning, is Adewatu Makanya getting both options picked up for 2026 and 2027. And I remember you had called me up and we discussed this, and you discussed this on It's Always Soccer in Philadelphia with Kevin Kincaid. Is okay, you get the 2026 option picked up and then the 2027. Well, what does that look like for Makanya? Is it just through that shortened season? Does it go through December 27? Who knows? I don't know if you have an answer yet, Jose, but yeah, I mean, congrats to Makani getting both options picked up. This is the first time I've ever seen a player in MLS have both option years picked up. And I think this was a no-brainer just because of the huge breakout season that Makanya had with the Union this season.
Totally muted. My bad. Yeah, totally deserved. That's for sure. He had a killer of a year, and sure, he had a good year with MLS Next Pro. I didn't watch it as closely as some of our other friends at the one team we agree on, but of what I watched, especially leading into the playoffs, maybe the couple of weeks ahead of it, since the Philadelphia Union first team was already in Cancun after being eliminated in 2024. You could tell that he stood apart in MLS Next Pro, but I certainly did not expect him to have the season that he had in 2025. Notoriously, I am the first one to have criticized the amount of money he was making playing MLS Next Pro. I even did a quick apology video, hostage apology video with Mark Helkenberg in passing. So I think it's well deserved. But your question is apt. I don't know what it means. I would venture to guess that as it stands right now, these contracts are based on calendar years. So after that sprint season in 2027, is Owethu Makanya really a player for Philadelphia only through December, and then the rest of the 2027 real season, I say in air quotes, he's just a free agent? I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I don't know what's going to be the official answer for something like that. But it'll be interesting. That's for sure. And much like you, Todd, I can't recall many. And please, if you're in the chat or listening after the fact, and you can remember of whether it's Union or somewhere else across the league, a player getting multiple options in a contract picked up rather than one piecemealed, please let Todd know or at us on Twitter so we can see that. But my guess is that my guess is honestly that even if it is only through, December of 2027, I don't know that Olwethu sticks around past this 2026 season at the rate that he's had. I think it's a non-starter of a problem. I think he is well gone by then.
I agree with you. I think now the big thing is trying to get him into the squad for South Africa at the World Cup. I think it's going to be tough, honestly, just because he hadn't been called up to any of the games prior. I don't know if I'm making this up, Jose. Maybe I'm reading into it a little bit, but that interview you had posted where Makanya went on to the radio station in South Africa, and the host seemed like they admitted that they don't watch MLS games, and I do wonder how closely the South African Federation watches MLS games, because I think if you watch any of Makanya's games, in my opinion, he was the Union's best defender and better than Jacob Glesnes, better than Kai Wagner. But it's Wagner and Jacob Glesnes both getting the honors for being up for Defender of the Year, not Makanya. Makanya, tremendous season. Jillian, who covers Union 2 with her husband, Kyle Almany, said, I didn't expect that season for him, but I'm also not surprised. And yeah, I mean, she's somebody that's probably seen, I would say, Makanya the most out of everybody in the media, just with the amount of times that her and her husband were covering Union 2 and watching Neil and Awethu leading the back line for Union 2. But yeah, I hope people in the Federation are watching Makanya. I hope some of these games leading up to the World Cup, Makanya could get called into that squad. I'm blanking on the name, the South African that Minnesota are finalizing a deal for, but maybe that puts more eyeballs on Makanya, because if I'm not mistaken, this center back that Minnesota just signed or about to sign has been a feature in that South African team. So I would imagine coming over to MLS, he'll still get called up. Maybe that puts more eyeballs on Makanya. Hopefully Makanya could get called up and then get called up to the World Cup squad. And if he gets called up, if he starts, and I know this is a lot of big ifs, maybe it's possible, Jose, that he leaves in the summertime of 2026. We know what World Cups can do for players.
Yeah, no, for sure. We also know what it can't do for players, as you think of Olivier Mbizo, though he didn't feature when he went with Cameroon, if I recall. It's for Chicago, not Minnesota, just to save you from the comments.
Thank you.
And I don't know that I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I'm guessing the M is silent. It's Bikazelli Bukazi, but there's an M at the start of both of them. From the Orlando Pirates, allegedly making a move to Chicago. So yet to be finalized, but it seems like he's going there. And yeah, I believe he has featured for the first team. Certainly made the most recent preliminary squad, which is already a step ahead of Makanya. So yeah, I don't know, man. What gives? I don't. And I recall that radio interview that I ran into thanks to the algorithm, where it really did paint the picture that folks in South Africa have no idea what MLS is. Maybe it's even fortunate or lucky that they know that Olwethu's there, right? And they were able to land an interview with him, which I can only imagine. I wonder how much Union PR was involved in lining that one up, or if it was more of Olwethu just being hit up on Instagram and told to hop on. But nonetheless, yeah, I wish he gets a shot. I really do hope he gets a shot to represent his country. It was quite obvious from the stories there that the country's quite, he's quite fond of his home nation, and even the small gestures that Bradley Cornell was making to make him feel at home, like he was back in Africa at such a young age, being in the U.S. for as long as he has, go a long way. So yeah, we'll see what happens with him. But World Cup or no World Cup, I still don't see a world where he steps on the field in the sprint season of 2027. Never mind the last bit of his contract if it was to be a calendar year through December 2027.
I agree. Thank you for that save, by the way. Thank you. The too many damn Midwest teams, too many damn teams in MLS. 30. Nah, we love it. We love it. More teams. Come on, Don. More teams. We want it to go up to 34. More cities to travel to. But let's go ahead and talk about these 2026 Philadelphia Union roster decisions. Yeah, we hit on a couple of them already, but I think, man, I mean, there's so many ways, Jose, we could take this, and I guess where I would want to go is just going off the fact. What I made the thumbnail for the video is the Union declining options on Chris Donovan, Isaiah LaFleur, Nick Periano, and Oliver Zemla. And none of those players getting their options decline is surprising to me. I don't think there's anything about those four guys that's surprising to you. But maybe you're surprised me. Maybe you're surprised that one of those guys aren't coming back next season.
Not surprised. Oliver Semla, as I had heard, again, this is through sources, and take it or leave it. I was told that, as part of his loan, maybe there was an agreement for him to be at North Carolina the following year, but obviously that's not happening with North Carolina folding in USL. So I believe that he is then due, should he have signed something. I don't know how that all maybe worked out, but if he was indeed a contracted player, I think he gets 2 months severance, I believe is what the deal was for those players from North Carolina that had deals for the 2026 USL season. In terms of Isaiah LaFleur, not surprised either. I think Detroit's been a good fit for him based on the very little that I watched. The injury really set him back. It just completely derailed any hope. Chris Donovan, congratulations to his agent for getting him as much money as he did. Is it? I mean, he scored some key goals. Don't get me wrong. He scored some incredible goals in terms of importance when he did, right? The playoff goal. We can't forget about that. The League's Cup goal as well. You remember that too. But I think what he will be most remembered for is being an MLS Next Pro killer. Because I remember he made one appearance or two appearances last year or 2 years ago. And one of them was against Atlanta. I think he scored 4 goals that game, and it was his first and only game that season, or second and only game that season. But also Fabrizio Romano tweeting about him. That's just impeccable Union lore for the textbooks in 30, 40 years of MLS Philadelphia Union history. That's forever going to be up there that I lived through it. That's incredible.
Yeah, so incredible to get Fabrizio Romano announcing a contract extension for Chris Donovan, a Philadelphia Union fringe player. Insane. And it was against Atlanta United 2 in 2024, had 2 goals and a 5-0
there you go.
victory over Atlanta. But yeah,
Todd,
good.
Give me. I do want to comment on Nick Periano. I think he's an interesting player. I really do think he's an interesting player. That out of all 3 of 4 of these, Isaiah probably has a team based on his performances with Detroit. They obviously went on and beat Louisville, actually, who I think I had predicted to win the entire USL playoffs. Oliver Semla, who I think will find a footing somewhere. Chris Donovan, I'm really intrigued to see where he lands. But Nick Periano is one of those players where I think he is so sound when it comes to ability on the ball in terms of passing long balls. Mentally, I think he's very smart. Saw a lot of that with our friend Mark Kelkenberg when he was showing me clips of him when he was at Ocean City. Certainly when he was with Duke.
Yeah.
That I wonder what the interest is for him, whether it's USL, I'm not sure, but certainly I would wager that there's MLS Next Pro teams that are interested in him that maybe need a a player that makes everybody better rather than be the better player than everybody else.
Yeah, I would imagine MLS Next Pro teams are definitely interested in him. I mean, looking at his time with Union 2, 58 appearances, 5 goals, 4 assists, and over 4,400 minutes played. And the thing about Nick is he's a player that never really played in the position that he excelled in with Duke as that number 10. Played primarily as a defensive midfielder with Union 2, played as a right back, if I'm not mistaken. And I think if Nick can get into a team that will play to his abilities, will play him further up in the attack where he can thrive and open teams up, I think, yeah, maybe we can see a different Nick Periano that we didn't get to see with Union 2. And to his credit, I've talked to him a couple times, interviewed him once last season when the Union 2 made that run. Really smart kid, really great answers, and seems like he has a great head on his shoulder. But there's a guy who, I mentioned it, had to play out of position because of injuries, because of maybe not having, on paper at least, as deep as a roster as Union 2 had last year. And I know that's crazy to say, seeing that Union 2 got more points this season. But yeah, Nick did whatever the team was asked and played in multiple positions where he's just not used to. So I do wonder if a team picks him up, and I would imagine a team picks him up, but the question is where. Will they play him more in that attacking midfielder role and not so much as a defensive midfielder or as a right back? But knowing that he can play in multiple positions, I think maybe he does open up his market a little bit, saying, hey, look, here's a player that's versatile. Here's a player that came through a great academy in Philadelphia, a player who played in a really sound Duke team in the ACC. Is a guy who, okay, maybe doesn't have a ton of experience at the highest level professionally, but he does have experience. And so I do believe there will be a market for Nick. And it is unfortunate. I know I saw some Union fans saying that they want to see him play with the first team. Some Union fans upset that he's not coming back. But yeah, it's unfortunate. And when you have so many midfielders on the team, it's kind of hard to break through out of that group. Going to Chris Donovan, yeah, the goal against New England, you talked about it. I don't need to talk about that. And he scored 5 goals for the Union in 77 appearances, 1 assist, and 1,861 appearances in 4 seasons with the club. And yeah, I remember when the Union had got him from Columbus, if I'm not mistaken, Jose. I think Columbus Crew had his rights, and then they never gave him a contract. So then he signed a deal with Union 2, and then eventually got a first team contract because he was playing so well with Union 2, and just never was able to find that stride with the first team like he did with Union 2. And again, you and I have talked about it so many times on the show. The step up from MLS Next Pro to MLS is a huge difference, and it's as big of a difference too with USL Championship to MLS. It's a pretty big gap when you look at those two leagues compared to the highest division here in America. But Chris Donovan always come on and press and gave his all. But as a striker, you want goals. And again, it's what the Union fans always complain about Mikal Ua. Oh, he's not scoring enough goals compared to what the Union are paying him. But I think at least the thing with Ua was he was getting himself in those positions to score. He was a lot more clinical than Chris Donovan. We saw a lot more assists this season from Ua as well, 7 assists, career high for him with the Union. But yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to see where Chris Donovan winds up. MLS Next Pro, maybe? USL League One, USL Championship, potentially. I wouldn't imagine his career's over. I'm sure there's going to be a team someplace out there that takes advantage of him. And then Oliver Zemla, this is the one where I was confused by his signing back in 2024. I know from sources that the Union pushed really hard for John McCarthy. I know you have heard the same thing too, Jose. It wasn't meant to be. Signs with LA Galaxy, and then the Union kind of scramble out there and sign Zemla, who I believe the year prior with Louisville led the league in clean sheets. But yeah, he just looked way out of his depth anytime that he stepped on the field for the Union, whether it was coming off the bench because Andre Blake was injured or whether it was making starts. And yeah, it's always unfortunate when you're wasting an international roster slot on a goalkeeper. So that is a positive that the Union do get that slot back next season. Now that Zemlin won't be taking that up, but yeah, it just never really worked out for him, and still only 27 years old. So again, I would imagine that he'll still get offers someplace. I wouldn't think in MLS, USL Championship potentially. He has the experience, like I mentioned, with Louisville, with North Carolina. I think he kept 5 clean sheets in his short time there. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Oliver wind up back in the USL Championship. But yeah, that is pretty much everybody there that I want to cover. So let's go ahead and move it on to the players that the Union announced that they're in ongoing negotiations with. And that's all 4 players that were out of contracts: Alejandro Bedoya, Ben Bender, George Marks, and Mikal Ua. And for me, Jose, the most surprising out of this is Mikal Ua. I played the clip last episode where Mikal told us in the locker room after the game against New York City, he's keeping his options open. He's not saying no to anything. But in my opinion, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that Ua would not be back. And here's the Union announcing that they're in negotiations. And if I'm not mistaken, they had said they were in negotiations with Jack Elliott last year, and he winds up signing with Chicago Fire. But I didn't expect to see the Union say, "Oh yeah, we'll talk with Mikal Ua and see if we can come to a new deal." I thought he would be gone.
I thought so too, but I must admit this is not bad negotiation tactic, right? In terms of keeping the table, keeping somebody or his name on the table as a consideration. Excuse me. Did he really? Todd, can you look into that, please? That's hilarious. I don't have notifications for Fabrizio Romano just because he is an interesting character. But yeah, Mikal Ua, I listen, I would wager to say that I not knowing anything, not breaking any news here, but I would wager to say that I personally don't see a world where he comes back, considering the as I reported first, the signing of Alado. So I don't know how he fits into those plans. And the reality is that he's gonna want similar money to what he's making now, I would think, right? And I bet you that there are plenty of MLS teams that would be more than happy to give him that money. And I feel like he's in a spot in his career where he could be a perfect bridge for a franchise, right? Between maybe moving away from one generation to the new generation of the club. So I don't know where that is. Maybe in a way, maybe a Sporting Kansas City makes sense in terms of like still rebuilding for something from nothing. I know they just got the Ray dude who was at St. Louis for a while.
DC United makes sense, especially with Benteke being a free agent.
Absolutely, they have the money and they could use a little bit of a player who knows how to win games, not necessarily championships, but knows how to win games, and especially a player that has tortured the hell out of DC United. So yeah, man, I think that you and I could probably riff on, if we were to spend 5-10 minutes, like 6 other clubs that make sense for him. But the reality is that maybe he's just tired of the United States. Maybe he just wants to go back home, be in his family in a country where everybody in his family can speak the language that they most appreciate. Like, again, maybe he just genuinely wants to go back home. So nothing wrong with that. So I wish him well, whatever the decision is. I'd be glad to see him at press conferences or games in the future, but I also not too concerned if he was to go away. I don't know that Philadelphia gets that much worse either, considering what they're bringing in and the reality of how good they've been at hitting on these players that they're bringing in as of late.
All right, so here's the tweet from Fabrizio that Evan was talking about. The player is Brian Vera.
Brian Vera.
I believe that he's a defender. I know that. I had him in FIFA a couple years ago. He had some special card, and I packed him, and I was like, "What? A Real Salt Lake player?" I believe he's a left back. I want to say plays center back as well. But yeah, going from Real Salt Lake to Montreal for $1.5 million plus add-ons. Romano is reporting.
I bet you Real Salt Lake just got a gigantic spike in Google searches through Google Analytics. Like, there's no way, because it's just hilarious because the just how weird this is. Because listen, Todd, we can still see your feed, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, before you scroll into something not so appropriate, I know your algorithm, but I'm looking at this at Fabrizio Romano's main page, and the first tweet that spinned is Endrick of Real Madrid going to Olympique Lyonnais. And then underneath is Brian Vera. Like, that makes no sense. Like, what world are we in right now, right? It's just so weird.
So weird, man. It's so weird. Guess that agent's working hard. Hey, tweet about my guy. Potentially. But going back
Insane.
to the UA thing, so a couple things that I want to point out that I should have mentioned with 4 players that the union announced aren't coming back, or that they declined options. And I swear I saw you tweet this last week, Jose, but then when I went to look for the tweet, I couldn't see it anymore. Maybe it was somebody else, but those 4 players, Donovan, LaFleur, Periano, and Semla, it saves the union almost $565,000 in guaranteed comp is what those 4 players earned last year. I would imagine with options, like anything, you do get a little bit of a pay bump, and so I'm sure that number would be a little bit higher. So you're saving yourself a little over $500,000 with not bringing those guys back. But then if you don't bring back Bedoya Bender, George Marks, and Mikhail Ua, you're saving yourself $2.6 million in guaranteed comp, with most of that coming from Mikhail Ua, who earned $2.2 million last year as a DP. And I just put out an article breaking down the roster decisions right before we went live on the podcast. And for me, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the union to bring back Mikhail Ua, considering how much money he was making last year. And I would imagine the union, if they were to bring him back, they're not making him a DP again. The union would want him to take a significant pay decrease, I would imagine. And so let's say, just for shits and giggles, Jose, that Ua says, I want to be a max TAM. Well, then max TAM last year in MLS was $1.7 million. And if that goes up a little bit next year, let's say to 1.8 million, I think even that's too expensive for the union to say, yeah, we'll bring you back at $1.8 million, Mikel. Yeah, you're not a DP anymore, but $1.8 million is still a significant amount of money.
It is. It absolutely is. And I don't know. I don't know if the union want to pay for that in terms of I think what would become depending on how some other things move, but like a tertiary option, right? Because you have Bruno Damiani, who is, I think, going to be a starter from here on out. And if not, he became one based on the majority of the game this season. I would think Ezekiel Alado, again, reportedly not quite over the finish line, but I'm sure it's getting closer and closer. Maybe option 2. Or 3 with Ty Baribo somewhere in there, should he stay. I know we're going to talk about options picked up in a little bit. But ultimately, like, that's a lot of money for a 4th option, right? Like, that is a ton of money. If anything, the savings that the union got on moving on from Chris Donovan, fifth option or 4th option at this year, right? Making $200-some thousand. Like, good on the union for realizing that. So yeah, this is where a DC United step in. This is where some of these clubs that maybe need a 1 or a 2 can, work with a player like Ua.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that the union would give him a max TAM deal, but I'm saying, okay, even if Ua said, okay, I'll come back. I won't be a DP. I'll take a max TAM deal. I don't know if the union feel comfortable paying that, especially when you look at the CBA. Each year that teams are getting less and less TAM. So last year it was 2.2 million. This year it's going to be 2.1 million. 2027 it's going to be 2 million. So MLS is trying to phase out TAM. And there's just no way that the Union spend majority of their TAM on Mikau Ua. Because last year the Union had a total of 7 players on TAM. You had Milan Alaski, who you acquired midseason, which I would imagine that he'll probably be on a higher salary than we saw this year, Jose. With his, I'm trying to pull it up. I had it up here, and I guess I closed out of the tab. Milan Alaski this year was at $552,000. I would imagine that we see him on a little bit of a higher salary next season. Maybe not. I mean, he was only here for halfway through the season. But you had Ty Baribo, Andre Blake, Jan Glavinovich, Jacob Glesnes, Danley John Jock, and Kai Wagner. Well, Jan's not with the club anymore. The loan's done. He's back at Newell's Old Boy. So you do free up some TAM there. You had mentioned Ezekiel. Wouldn't be shocked if he's a TAM player. Maybe a U22, Jose, I think would be more likely. So then you would save yourself money there for TAM. But the only way, in my opinion, that you bring Mikau Ua back is if you trade Ty Baribo, in my opinion. A little bit over $800,000. Yes, him and his agent, I think it's no secret, want a significant pay increase. There's reports out of Israel that the union offered $2 million. I don't know how credible that is. I don't know if you've heard anything, Jose. Don't want to throw you under the bus, so don't feel like you have to touch on that. But we remember the rumors during the summertime linking him to New York Red Bulls, New York City. There's got to be teams interested in him. And if you're the Union, 3 goals in your last 11 regular season matches for the Union after starting the season with 6 goals in your first 3 games, that's a significant cool-off for Ty Baribo. Yes, he led the team in goals with 16, but I could see from their perspective why they wouldn't want to pay him DP money, why they would feel comfortable keeping him on a TAM deal. And if they can't come to a contract on a long-term deal, then I wouldn't be surprised to see the Union move on from Baribo before the season starts, because you don't want to wind up with another Julian Kranza situation where you lose the player on a free. And so if Baribo gets moved before the start of the season, if Ua hasn't signed someplace, I think that opens up a potential return. But again, do you want to pay a max TAM deal for Ua, your 4th option? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And the Baribo domino is so interesting to me. Just because, what can I say without getting in trouble, Todd?
And there's a question from Evan. We can go ahead and switch to that if you want.
No, it's okay. I think Ty is on a criminally low salary. I think for what he's done in this whatever year and a half of real play. Right, he's technically been at the club for 2 years, but only really played for a year and a half, based on finally getting in during Leagues Cup after Julian Carranza left for Feyenoord, who's having a torrid time out in Europe. By the way, I wonder if there's an MLS return at some point. But I don't know about $2 million for Ty Baribo. I know that would feel kind of a high benchmark for a player in Philadelphia specifically. But a race for sure. I do wonder what the New York teams do. And I need to look at the contract situation over in New York and see what their strike force looks like, because I know they made mid-season acquisitions.
Or here's one. Alonso Martinez is going to be done, I would imagine, for the most of the season with that torn ACL. So there's an option.
There is an option there, yeah, for sure. You go ahead. Do you go ahead? I wonder, do they go ahead and put him for the injury list the entire season, or do they? Because I don't know. You rush them to make it to playoffs. That would seem kind of that would seem kind of hard on that type of injury to suddenly say, yeah, come on, like you're gonna get acquainted with the league once again over the last whatever month or two of the season and then go into the playoffs. That seems kind of insane to me to put a player in that situation. But yeah, that's an interesting development over the past couple of weeks for sure. So we'll see where Ty Barivo ends up, whether it's back in Philadelphia and just plays out the rest of his contract, or to use a basketball term, maybe there's a sign and trade deal here, per se, of like, signing a deal and trading or whatever, trading, and he signs a long deal out somewhere else, because there is the cash for trade mechanism now in MLS. It's far easier for teams to bring players on as well as selling them on. I think of Lucho, who went from Cincinnati to Dallas and then out of Dallas just about immediately halfway through the season, 3/4 through the season. So really, really fun ahead for the player and certainly the teams.
Yeah, and here's something I'm sure that Ty's agent saying is looking at his numbers. Every 107 minutes, he's scoring a goal or getting an assist, which isn't bad. 67 appearances with the Union, 35 goals, 6 assists, and a little bit over 4,400 minutes. So a goal.
I
or
would make that.
yeah,
I would make that. I would make that 34 appearances, Todd, because remember his debut for Philadelphia was 2 minutes long.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So yeah, try to inflate those numbers a little bit more. We know one player that's good at pulling up stats and whatnot, Alejandro Bedoya. Got him another contract. So you want to look at the numbers, just hit up Bedoya. He'll help you just really market yourself very, very well. But all kidding aside, I mean, we know Bedoya's a smart business guy. But yeah, I mean,
Bedoya, he represents himself, right? Didn't he say that last year? I'm pretty sure Bedoya represented himself, but hired data people to help him. I recall.
Yeah, I'm
for
pretty
some
sure
reason that's
data people help him.
Yeah, I feel like that was the line that he was trotting, and deservedly so. Alejandro, if you're watching, my guess is somehow this shit gets filtered out to you just because you're active on social media. But
YMU Management is his listed agency on Transfer Market.
I don't know. For some reason I feel like he was representing himself, but hired data people to help him out. Either way, he's a savvy ass dude. I think whatever he does, I do wonder, and this is maybe like the same tune, different year, but like I wonder when enough is enough, right? Like has he had his fix? And I think as cool as it is for Omar Gonzalez out in Chicago to go from player to player coach with their MLS Next Pro, I kind of want Bedoya to not do that. I kind of want Bedoya to just like, congratulations, man. Great career. Because I really do see MLS Next Pro as a U23 league. Like, there's no need for a Bedoya or an Omar Gonzalez to be trotting around the field. Like, there's really no need for that whatsoever. So that probably more than you were bargaining for in terms of how I feel about MLS Next Pro and Bedoya, but that's where I am. I respect the hell out of him. Believe me, he would call me out in a minute. I guarantee it.
Anybody. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Everybody.
I all respect to him. I mean, I don't know if this would get me in trouble with doing things in the media, but I do definitely feel a bias towards Bedoya because I remember just growing up, he was my favorite national team player with the U.S. Dude was maybe not statistically the most appealing, but I just loved how much that he grinded on the field. He took no shit from anybody. And so that's kind of the type of player that I was on the field too. Yeah, I didn't get a ton of goals or assists, but yeah, I mean, leaving all that on the field and just playing for the Badger in your shirt and having those crunching tackles and just doing whatever you can to help your team win. That's why I respected Bedoya so much. And so I don't know. I think he has enough clout. I think if he wants to come back, thinks he has enough in those legs to come back, bring him back because I think it was pretty evident this year, Jose, towards the end of the season, he really wants to win MLS Cup. He wanted it badly. Like he was happy telling us that he won another supporter shield, but he really wants the cup. And if he feels like he still has it in the tank, I'd bring him back. But then again, I just told you I have a soft spot for Bedoya just because what he's done with the national team. So maybe people don't want to take my opinion. Maybe a little bit too biased. But yeah, that's pretty much on the players that the Union are negotiating with. Marks and Bender, yeah, I'm fine with it. Depth pieces, because let's not forget, Jose, Union back in CCC next year. I would imagine the Union will be in League's Cup. I'm sure MLS will probably follow a similar format that League's Cup was this season, where not every team in MLS or Liga MX competed in a League's Cup. I would imagine we see something similar. US Open Cup, who knows what happens with that? But again, if you follow what MLS did this year, where half your teams played in US Open Cup, the other half played in League's Cup, there's no way the Union play in both. But you are going to have 3 competitions this season. You're going to need a big squad. And so what do you think are positions of need for the Union in 2026? Jose, real quick, the players that are under contract, because we don't need to talk about these guys coming back. It's everybody we haven't mentioned so far. Marcus Anderson, Andre Blake, Jesus Bueno, Damiani, Eddie Davis, Jacob Glezis, Olaski, DJJ, Lukic, Macania, Bizo, Olivas, Oni, Pierre, Raffanello, Rick, Kevin, and Quinn Sullivan, Indiana Vasiliv, David Vasquez. We'll see if that buy option gets picked up by San Diego. Again, November 30th was the deadline for that. Kai Wagner and Frankie Westfield. And then you also have Baribo and Harriel coming back. So 24 players under contract for 2026. You're talking to 4 more, which if you were to bring all those guys back, now your roster's at 28. Whenever Ezekiel gets done, that puts it at 29. What else would you do, Jose?
I think I would like I think Philadelphia would like, I should say, an attacking mid of some sort. I think some creativity. Ensure they're not they've shown moments. I mentioned this with Kevin Kincaid. They've shown moments where they play some incredible Joga Bonito style soccer for sure, stringing passes together and breaking down teams, etc. But more often than not, they're being very direct. And I think if anything, the New York City game to end the season showed why they need somebody to help unlock, low blocks or teams that sit back and are not afraid. They're not afraid to be back and or afraid to be in possession. So I think that's one of the pieces. I also wonder if there's room for growth at the center defensive mid. Sure, Danley and Jovan have that lined up, but I wonder about Danley's future with Philadelphia. Not immediately, but certainly not far off of it. But who's the next best option, right? Jesus Bueno and Ben Bender, maybe. That doesn't make me feel very good. If I'm Philadelphia, potentially, unless I'm missing other players on the roster off the top of your head. But I would say those are the 2 main positions. Though I am really intrigued what they do with George Marks, because I think there's a clear number 2 for Philadelphia. I just wonder what's a number 3 from here on out.
Yeah, I think you bring back Marks. I do. It's not going to cost you a lot. Has experience with Charlotte. It's going to be cheap. Why not? And no more international roster slots on goalkeepers, please.
He did a ton, and I mean a ton of community service and PR work in his time with the Union. Again, it was such a condensed period, but I know he was out there picking up trash near Subaru Park. I'm fairly certain that he helped out with the peanut butter and jellies. I think he helped out with the equipment drive. So all that to say that he seems to be invested in the communities that he's at. I'm pretty sure he did a hospital visit too, to Nemours, I believe is how you say it. So again, like super involved in the community. So, yeah, I don't see why not. It's just, is he comfortable being a number 3, potentially a number 1 for MLS Next Pro?
What about this question from Evan? Says, would you guys do another loan for Jan for a smaller fee than this year? I feel like you never really got a good shot.
Now, I may have a little bit of a bias because of the South American side of things, and honestly, from what I was told and what I watched at the St. Louis game, which he played with that tear
Hmm.
through it. Adrenaline's a heck of a thing, I guess. And even the preseason match where he went on to get injured too, he looked good. I mean, he's a very aggressive defender, center back that just shows some range and passing too. So Todd, I want you to bring up that comment by Chris at some point. Um, um, wonder what the feeling is because Todd, we can count. We're actually out of fingers on how many times the press asked Bradley Carnell about Jan's status, and we were told it was progressing. And I don't think it ever really did, like it was sort of just the wheel in the mud. So I wonder where he is mentally and where he is in his injury. I don't know that he's actually playing anywhere.
Yeah, I do wonder that too. And I don't know any player that's coming out of Argentina, a young player coming out of Argentina that's, correct me if I'm wrong, he was linked with a team in Brazil before the Union got the deal done. I forget what team it was. Corinthians doesn't sound right. Botafogo, maybe. I forget what the team was in Brazil. But I remember there was reports that there was a
Yeah.
team in Brazil that wanted to get the deal done. The Union were able to get it over the line. And whenever you have teams in Brazil top teams in Brazil that are looking at players and a team in MLS can get the deal done over them, I think that tells you everything you need to know about how highly thought of that player is, how how high their talent level is. And so I think if he's recovering well, you can agree to a smaller deal, then why not? I would take him back. I mean, you absolutely do need another center back. We'll see. I would imagine Neil Pierre, after winning Defender of the Year in MLS Next Pro, which again, it's MLS Next Pro. Don't want to take anything away from that award, but again, it is new MLS. We'll see what he looks like coming into preseason. I would imagine he'll get opportunities next year. We saw him make his debut against Vancouver, but yeah, I think attacking midfielder and center back is where I would focus. You probably need a left back too because of no more Isaiah LaFleur, but again, you can play Nathan Harriel there. It seems like Harriel can slot in anywhere on the back line or as an attacking midfielder as well, as we saw a couple times this season, as well with Frankie. But Chris's question here or comment was, too much international duties across the whole roster. Fatigue, injury risk, roster depletion.
Depletion.
Thank you. Got to reduce that.
Yeah, I struggle with this comment, Chris, and I appreciate you chiming in and following. And I see your name a lot, and I really, really appreciate it. But this is one of those instances where if you want to be the best team in the league, you have to have some of the best players in the world. And whether it's representing CONCACAF teams or European teams, etc., it's an honor for these guys. And I think you understand that. I think I've had this chat with you online in the past. It's an honor for them to do this. And it just shows how good the union scouting and process is at finding some of these players, because they've been able to unearth players and give them opportunities with their national teams. Jose Martinez, for the longest time, was a lock, and I think continues to be a lock for Venezuela. But prior to joining Philadelphia, he wasn't really involved. I don't even think at the youth level, honestly. I think another one is Jesus Bueno. Granted, he hasn't really featured, but he continues to get call-ups. Obviously, Danley with Haiti. I just think that there's something to be said about being able to represent the nation, and meaning that you genuinely have the best players in the world in your squad. You can't be the best without some of these players.
Yeah, I agree with you. There isn't anything else I would add there. The only thing I would add, I guess, is if you're playing for your national team, that means more eyes are on you, which means eventually, hopefully, you would be able to sell them for a significant portion. And I know a lot of people in this fan base don't like the prospects of selling players, but it's a business at the end of the day. Yes, you want to win trophies, but that's why I tell people don't get player jerseys on the back because these guys don't stick around. And yeah, I love the whole business side of soccer because if you have a good scouting department, then you're gonna go ahead and be able to find another replacement, and maybe that replacement's better than the guy that you just sold. And this isn't just an MLS thing; it's a thing across the whole world. Soccer, majority of the leagues are a selling league, so yeah, I've no issues with the union going out and signing players that are representing their national teams because, like Jose said, you want the best of the best. And if they're playing for the national team, they're progressing well with the union, then ideally you'll sell them for more than what you bought them for. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the 2026 roster decisions. And don't get me wrong, guys, this is just the start. This is so early. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about with this roster. Like we said, maybe there's some deals. Maybe the union sell some guys, trade some guys. We saw a couple deals last year within MLS with Jack McGlynn and Daniel Gazdag. And so with that mechanism where you can get straight up cash, not not GAM, I wouldn't be surprised if we keep seeing more and more teams take advantage of that mechanism. But Jose, anything else you want to add here with an hour 16 into the podcast?
I think the only thing I want to add that I don't think we mentioned is I was surprised to not see Nate Harriel get a contract extension, which makes me wonder a little bit about where he stands amongst the staff. I think he's probably a great guy. Don't get me wrong, but it's just I'm wondering what's taking if there's a plan of giving him a contract extension, right? Because they picked up the option for this year.
Mm-hmm.
I still think he has 2027 as part of his option.
2026 last.
Just 2026.
Yep.
So I'm just surprised that there's not a contract extension or something. Maybe not announced yet. Maybe it's on the docket, or maybe was on the docket for Ernst to take care of. But obviously,
I lied. 2027. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay, so I was right. So again, why didn't he get both of his years picked up the way Olwethu did? Someone who has been incredibly helpful to the club, playing multiple positions, been at multiple international USA camps, right? Camp in January. That gets used to get a not so great nickname. Now that camp's gone. Olympics as well. So I'm kind of, that was the first question that came to mind when I saw those. Like, yeah, okay, his options extra picked up. That makes sense, but why is there not a new deal? He's still making $200-some thousand, I believe, if not a little bit close to that. If I think he's below 250, if I recall.
Harriel?
Yeah,
I know this for sure because I just read about it. It's 312,000.
Okay, and that still feels a little low for someone who plays as much as he does and as many roles as he does.
I agree. And
So,
he's so
I
versatile
don't know.
too. You can play along the whole back line, like you said, as a number 10. And Bradley Cornell clearly values players that can play in multiple positions.
Maybe Nate knows his value and he's just holding out for a better deal as he continues to perform, continues to get opportunities into the 2027 season. So I don't know. I'm intrigued to hear where his mind's at. My guess is, honestly, with my luck, I have something going on Tuesday, that the end of season press conference will be on Tuesday, right at the time I'm supposed to be on a Zoom call with somebody very important. So I just have a slew of questions for this group, and I'm most intrigued, Todd, on who's going to be at the table with Bradley Cornell.
Yeah, it's the $1 million question, which we got to find out when the State of the League addresses from Don Garber. I'm sure Don
Is it?
Garber's going to take a million questions about Ernst Tanner.
I think it's the day of MLS Cup. Uh, I think it was last year, the day before the day of it, because I remember uh 2 years ago. So tomorrow's the anniversary of my brother's passing, but I remember being in North Carolina for his funeral.
Mm.
And the day of the final was also, I believe, the same day that they had because that was LAFC against Columbus. I'm pretty sure that he had the press conference and immediately walked out to go to the stadium, or he was in the stadium already and walked to a different place in the stadium.
Trying to Google it, not going so well, but it doesn't matter. I mean, again, I'm sure there's going to be people asking Don Garber about Ernst Tanner, where that investigation stands, and maybe Don comes out and gives an update without anybody asking a question, because he's got to know that it's a hot topic right now for the league. And so, yeah, we'll see. I guess whenever we get an update on where the investigation with MLS is with Ernst Tanner. But Jose, as always, where can people follow you on social media?
Thank you at Jose R Nunes 91. Nothing really that I'm working on. I think this is the portion where I get to pimp out my work a little bit. Intrigued to see where I stand with the league. I had a great first year writing for them. I think I did okay. Excited to see if they want to bring me back. And Philly Voice, I'm intrigued to see what they want to do next season, whether it's full-time coverage or meaning full-time every single game, or just select pieces here and there. But incredibly thankful again for everybody who watches, reads, and supports my work, our work specifically, and across our friends who also do this independently.
Absolutely. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod. Where you reach your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod. Live every single podcast on YouTube. Also check out the goals breakdown video. We'll have the New York City video coming out here soon, which I would imagine not a lot of you guys are probably going to want to see that, since you guys know the ending of that game. But you guys can check out my writing, the podcast, and goals breakdown video all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com, if you guys don't want to go to separate sites. And the last thing that I would plug is I had a blast going to College Park with Jillian and Kyle Almany, watching the University of Maryland defeat UConn, Andre Blake's alma mater. Beat down by the Terps 3-0, 2 red cards in that game. Insane. Head coach and their striker, UConn striker, got sent off in that game. Wild stuff. And I was hoping that there would be a matchup between Henry Bernstein, former Union Academy player, and Zach Bohane. But yeah, Stanford has just lost to Washington. So now we'll see Washington come to College Park either on Friday or Saturday. That was a great game earlier in the season, 3-2 Maryland win. So yeah, lots going on in college soccer. If you guys haven't watched any college soccer, well, yeah, go ahead and watch. Into the quarterfinals now. Saw that Duke lost to Akron today, 2-0. Notre Dame lost to Akron. Akron beat Duke, and then St. Louis beat Bryant, and so it's going to be St. Louis, Akron. Oh, actually, we do have the dates here. I think. 12-6. Let's go. Yeah, 12-6. Is that a Saturday? Jose, do you know? Is that a Saturday? I feel like that's a Saturday. 12-6, 12-6.
Yeah, it's a Saturday.
Let's go. So Maryland, Washington, 12-6 at College Park, 1 p.m. Let's go. If you guys are in the area, get down to College Park. Great time, great environment. I know most of you guys listen in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, so you guys aren't going to make the drive down to College Park. But at least watch college soccer on ESPN Plus if you guys have it. It's a great time, great games going on. A lot of MLS Academy kids playing at college programs now. A lot of international guys who maybe become the next thing in MLS. But yes, there is still plenty of soccer to watch, even though the Philadelphia Union are not in MLS Cup. Even though Union aren't playing it on Saturday, it's Inter Miami, Vancouver for the Cup at 2:30. So yeah, watch college soccer instead of that final. But I'm sure I'll be watching updates on my phone while I'll be down at College Park. But that's pretty much everything. We'll see you guys next episode again. Jose and I told you guys have a lot to talk about with the off season, a lot of content for you guys. And one thing Jose wanted to say, I don't want to speak to you for you, Jose, but I forgot to plug it last time. You said, don't forget, there will be a rotating chair of guests as you have a busy work schedule in January. Because, quick reminder for all you guys, this is not our full-time jobs. This is not our full-time jobs. We have full-time jobs, and I feel like do this full-time anyway. So it's like working 2 full-time jobs. And then Jose having kids of his own feels like it's another full-time job. So, wow, Jose, don't know how you have the time to do all this. Very, very appreciative of your time. Thank you to your wife for allowing me to usually take 2 hours of Jose's time in the evening. But again, you guys are the best part of the show, watching the podcast, commenting. We appreciate it. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.